10% of a company and you're not paying for it. And I will tell you, with a company like Intel, as you know, it's had difficulty. I want them to do well. I want them to do well anyway, but I want them to do well in particular now.
But isn't public ownership of a private company a new way of doing business in the business of the United States? Isn't that what you were sort of rejecting?
So are tariffs. So, as you know, the stock market went up almost 1,000 points on Friday. And it went up not because of this very, I think, terrible, hello, who's that? Who is that back there? All right, get out of the room. It went up because of something much different. It went up because it was announced, CBO announced the numbers, and as you know, they gave no credit to tariffs. They said they made a mistake, that the trade deficit will be reduced because of Trump's tariffs, will be reduced by $4 trillion, right? Is that what they said, right? They said $4 trillion, and the market went up like a rocket ship because the tariffs are good. Well, tariffs aren't that usual. If the 7 wars I stopped, 4 of them were because of the fact that I had tariffs and trade. And I was able to say, well, if you do this, if you go fight and if you want to kill everybody, that's okay. But I'm going to charge you each 100% tariff when you trade with us. You know what? They all gave up. I stopped 7 wars. Numerous of them was because of tariffs. So, you know, you never knew the word tariff. It didn't exist really, essentially, in this country until actually in the 1870s up till 1913 it existed. And we were the richest country. We were richer then, proportionately, than at any time in the history of our country. And then, stupidly, in 1913, they said, let's go to the income tax way of life. Let the people pay instead of foreign countries. No. We're taking in trillions of dollars in tariffs, and we're stopping wars because of tariffs. So that's not so normal either. But you know what? Other countries did it to us, and now we're doing it to other countries.
You rolled out boots on the ground in Ukraine, but how would air support as part of a security guarantee be any different? Those U.S.
Well,
airmen...
you really went from one question to the next. You go from one. I expected he'd at least challenge me a little bit. Now we're talking about boots on the ground.
But U.S. air assets over the skies of Ukraine as part of a security guarantee, wouldn't those U.S. airmen also be in danger?
Well, you don't know what security guarantee is because we haven't even discussed the specifics of it. And we'll see. Number one, Europe is going to give them significant security guarantees, and they should because they're right there. But we'll be involved from the standpoint of backup. We're going to help them. And I think if we get a deal, and I think we will, but if we get a deal, you're not going to, I don't believe you're going to have much of a problem. But we'll back it up because I want to stop seeing people being killed. You know, when Biden was here, he gave $350 billion. You know this from covering business. $350 billion to Ukraine. I said that Zelensky's the greatest salesman I think I've ever met, better than P.T. Barnum, because he'd come to the country, he'd walk out with $50 billion every time. He actually came here once, he walked out with $100 billion. We're up to $350 billion. I got $1 trillion worth of rare earth that we have from the country because I felt badly for our taxpayer. But I did something else at the NATO meeting. They are wealthy countries, but they weren't paying. And we don't pay any money to Ukraine anymore. Do you know that? In fact, it's the opposite. They request through NATO, we deal with NATO. We don't deal really with Ukraine. NATO requests missiles. They want Patriots. They want missiles. We give the missiles to NATO. NATO pays us in full and does what they want. I mean, I think they give them mostly to, they can do other things with them too because we're dealing with NATO. We pay no money to Ukraine. We gave $350 billion to Ukraine. You know, if we didn't give that kind of money, and I was the one that gave the javelins, if you remember. I gave the javelins. They were very effective. They say Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. They were very effective with those tanks right at the beginning. But you would have never had a war if I were president. You would have never had a war. Just to finish, we spend no money on Ukraine anymore. We were getting fleeced by a president that didn't know what he was doing. To be honest, I don't blame Ukraine. I mean, if they come and ask for $100 billion, then they get it. But we were in for $350 billion. Now, we make money. I don't want to make money on Ukraine. I want the war to end because I want to save all those lives. I want to just save, but just so you understand, we're no longer losing money on that thing. We were losing money hand over fist. And now we don't lose any money. Now we sell weapons to NATO. Because NATO agreed, because of me, to go to 5%, they had 2% and didn't pay. Now they have 5% and they're all paid up. So they have trillions of dollars and they give us that money. But I really want the war to end, and we're going to get it ended.
Mr. President, it's been 1 week since the historic summit here with Ukrainian President Zelensky. European leaders all met here with you at the White House. You said you wanted to get this done bilateral as soon as possible. Have you spoken to Putin since last Monday?
Yeah, I have.
What is your conversation? Or can you share?
Every conversation I have with him is a good conversation, and then unfortunately a bomb is loaded up into Kiev or someplace, and then I get very angry about it. I think we're going to get the war done. It's tough. I thought that would be, of the 7 that I settled, I thought that would be the easiest of the group. See, you never know what's going to happen. You know, war, strange things happen in war. The fact that he went to Alaska, our country, I think was a big statement that he wants to get it done. That was not easy for him to go to Alaska, you know, for him to come here. But the fact that he showed up on a very successful day, it was a very successful day for other things. Because, you know, we're also talking about missiles, nuclear. We're talking about a lot of different things. We're talking about limiting nuclear weapons. We'll get China into that. We have the most. Russia has the second most, and China has third, but China is way behind, but they'll catch us in 5 years. We would like to denuclearize. It's too much power, and we talked about that also. That's part of it, but we have to get the war over with.
On Baltimore, sir. Thank you. On Baltimore, you said that you are going to have to reconsider bridge funding. Is that contingent on Westmore cleaning up the streets?
No, we were very generous to him on a bridge. You know, a boat ran into a bridge and the bridge came down like I've never seen anything. The boat was just, it just shows you the mass of that boat, the power of that boat. You know, people were up on that bridge, painters. They were painting the bridge and they were watching it happen. And they thought they were very safe. They all died. They were painting the bridge, can you imagine? And they watched the boat. The engines were off. And they watched the boat. And the power of that boat, the mass of that boat, went right through that steel just like it was nothing. It's amazing. It's called mass. Mass is a big deal. But the mass of that boat, those people all died. But they thought they were totally safe. Two of them were eating their lunch. They were, you know, whatever. They were watching it. They could have gotten off. Somebody did a very good job. A police officer called in and said, close the bridge. And he did it with power. Get everybody off the bridge, close that. That guy should get a medal because he stopped the bridge. A lot of people would have died. A lot more people would have died. The ones that died were the workers on the bridge. And they were just, they thought there was no danger because, you know, it's a big steel bridge. And it came down like toothpicks. It was incredible to watch that. It was just, and they died. They all died. But that police officer, again, the police do a great job. The police officer did an amazing job. And I heard the tapes. He would say, get everybody off. Most people wouldn't have said that. You know, when you see a thing like that, you assume it's going to, you know, tap the bridge and it's going to be rebuffed. The thing just came down. I've never seen anything like it. So he did a good job. In fact, I think we should get him in for a medal. The man that gave the warning, I listened to him. Everybody get off screaming. Everybody off. He had the sense to realize that this could be a catastrophe as opposed to a ship that's, because the engines weren't working, it was just floating. It's an amazing thing that a thing floating like that with no power just knocked it right down like it was nothing.
So
Let's do that. Let's give him a medal. I've been thinking about it.
Mr. President, do you plan to investigate Chris Christie?
Say it what?
Do you plan to investigate Chris Christie?
Look, Chris is a slob. Everybody knows it. I know Chris better than anybody in the room. I always felt he was guilty. But what he did is he took the George Washington Bridge, which is very serious. He closed down the George Washington Bridge. And you had medical people, you had ambulances caught up. This thing was closed down. And obviously he knew about it. But he blamed the young lady that worked for him and another person, and they got into a lot of trouble. She ultimately was, I don't know, exonerated, but she got out of it a little bit. But but she went through hell. She was a young mother, nice person. I knew her a little bit. And another man went to jail, and Chris got off. And so when I listen to Chris speak his hate, I say, oh, what about the George Washington Bridge? You know, tell me about the George Washington Bridge. He blamed other people, but he knew all about it. So no, I don't know if they want to look at it. It's not for me. If they want to look at it, they can. You could ask Pam. I think we have other things to do, but I always thought he got away with murder.
Mr. President, do you plan to make an endorsement in the Texas Senate race between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn?
Well, I'll make up my mind. I like them both. The worst situation I have is when I have two people that I get along with well. I hate it. And they all want the endorsement. You know, I'm almost 100% of the people I endorse win. It's a great honor. And I got, as you know, I got the largest vote in the history of Texas by far. Nobody's ever gotten more votes in the last election. I think in all the elections, the 3 elections, but they like me in Texas. So people are waiting for me, but I'd rather not comment on it right now. I like both guys. They're both friends of mine, and they're both good and very different.
There's some talk among congressional Republicans about another reconciliation bill. Where do you fall on that, and what would you like to prioritize?
Well, I don't want to do cutting. I want to save all the different things. I'm going to cut things that are unnecessary, but the one thing I said, and I gave my word, we're not going to hurt anybody on Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. And in fact, we're doing great on Social Security. We found 300,000 illegals on Social Security.